Hello and welcome everybody to Proving Grounds Winners Bracket Finals between Team Liquid Academy and 100 Thieves Academy, who are preparing right now for a big best of 5. I'll be your host for the day. You can call me Kangas, joined by Cubby and Cage in the Rage as my special analyst for the day. And everybody, after Sunday, there are no more amateur teams left in the tournament. It is now the Battle of Academy. Cubby, what does that mean?
I mean, for me, right off the bat, I think that the prep that Academy has had, having those 36 games, having the playoffs, it's showing up, and these teams, especially Team Liquid Academy, looked fantastic, looked dominant, but there's some big news for people that weren't following the Twitter sphere, not following the amateur scene, broken by Tim Seven Houston himself and Cage. Dokla and Honori are now in. We're going to have a different look for Team Liquid Academy, and it feels like the tournament favorites, the rest of the field might be looking at them like they might be vulnerable.
I mean, honestly, this is such a big change to be happening so late into the tournament, right? Because we have seen this variation of Team Liquid Academy before in the summer season where they went 6-6. But in this tournament, it's felt like Jenkins and Armeo have looked so good that losing those two options is just going to be such a detriment to this dominant team.
It is going to be tough. They were the first seed coming in. They won the Academy season in the summer, winning through playoffs there. And now roster swaps mid-Proving Grounds will be tough. They're up against 100 Thieves Academy, who had roster swaps coming into the event. So, this is the rematch of a semifinals from Academy playoffs, but only 6 of the 10 players are actually participating in it. Kind of interesting to think about. So, Cage, talk to me about 100 Thieves Academy. What's our pulse of this team? What do we think about them? Because, of course, they do have 2 subs as well, but they've been playing with them throughout all of Proving Grounds already.
I mean, there's a lot you can say about the Proving Grounds through 100 Thieves Academy's eyes, because they have been looking so dominant, and while they don't have the winningest record, I feel like we've seen such a consistency out of so many players on this team, not only limited to Luger, who's looked amazing throughout this tournament, but I feel like Chad, Gamsu, and even Ryoma have come into their own throughout this. We've seen them be able to do solo kills, we've seen them be able to really support the team, and honestly, it's just looking like this is the meta for 100 Thieves Academy.
And I really want to hit and drive home on the point about Chad and Gamsu stepping up. I think that 100 Thieves Academy has done a nice job of adapting to their new members. Gamsu, a very different top laner stylistically than Tenacity, has been playing a lot of Ornn, a lot of Shen in this tournament. And it's been paying off a lot of the reason because Chad has made it work. And Chad's a player that, in the words of Papa Smithy himself, is doing his best NXI impression, right? This is someone that came straight out of solo queue. This is really his first split playing competitively. And I know that speaking with Chad, he has a big chip on his shoulder. He said that, everyone that's watching 100 Thieves Academy, they think that, I stepped in late. I'm getting carried by Ryoma and Luger. And to be fair, Luger has been having an incredible tournament, probably the best individual performance that we've had in all of Proving Grounds. But I think that Chad's actually been playing really well. His stats don't say it, but his ability to split the maps level 1, his ability to pull off dives and repeat dives, putting himself behind but getting the rest of his team ahead, I think it's been really important for getting this team off the ground and making sure that Ryoma and Luger are set up for success as the game goes on.
It's going to be a fun match ahead of us, of course, with the roster swaps. Different looks for both teams from what we saw throughout the summer season. But let's take a quick zoom out and look at the bracket overall. Look at how we got to this point to begin with, because this is the upper bracket finals, of course, everybody. Both of these teams have won their way here. Team Liquid, they got through the amateur gauntlet between Supernova and Cloud9 Amateur to then make it through Dignitas Academy in a pretty close 2-1 series there. And Dignitas also, they were some of my favorites. They were my dark horse to actually make it into that top 4. And then, of course, they still had a fantastic run themselves. But on the lower side, or on the other side of the bracket, 100 Thieves Academy having a similar route, obviously, to get here. So TLA 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. And then taking a look at the route that 100 Thieves had taken, 2-1, 2-0, 2-1. So like Cage was saying, not the cleanest, or not as clean necessarily as Team Liquid Academy, but still looking strong throughout regardless. So now I want to bring the conversation back to you, Cubby, to talk to us about Team Liquid Academy. Now, obviously, the roster swaps are big, but this is a big opportunity for the team, for the org, to prove themselves. Because Spawn coming in here as the head coach took a team that was last in summer 2020 and get them all the way to first in summer 2021. A huge increase in performance for Team Liquid Academy. what are kind of what are you feeling here going into this big winners bracket finals now with 2 new players subbing in?
I mean, I know that, talking with Spawn, he knew that this was going to happen eventually for his team. Jenkins and Armeo are the 2 members that did play with Team Liquid's LCS roster. You get 7 people at Worlds. It was pretty clear that those were going to be the 2 subs taken. And honestly, it was something that Team Liquid wasn't sure if it was going to happen at the start of the tournament or now. It's top 4. And the one thing I know is that, especially with Honori, is that Honori actually helps him out as a coach. He's been with them this entire time, so he's very familiar with the team, but I think Doka was the more interesting story stepping in, just because I think his champion pool is very different than Jenkins. I think that one of the reasons that Team Liquid looked so clean, especially in those first 2 rounds, is that Jenkins was just individually putting his opponent in the dirt, like on his own. He was playing so well against Supernova and Cloud9 Amateur, but for Doka, this is a great opportunity and one that I feel like Doka has deserved. Keep in mind, the first split of Proving Grounds in the spring, he was on Solo Fide. They were a top 3 team in Amateur, one of the few teams that could give Norg a run for their money, ended up winning the entire thing. They did not compete because they had issues with the org. Now going into the next split, Doka finds himself on Wildcard Red. They made a 5th, 6th finish as an amateur team. He was picked up by Team Liquid once Jenkins had to go to the next level. He hasn't got a chance to play in Proving Grounds until now, a player that should have had these chances with his caliber of play, but it just hasn't lined up. And so for Doka, I really want to see if he is able to step into this, and I want to see if Team Liquid plays towards his champion pool, more so of the Jace and the Renekton champs that he's known for, that Jenkins not so much, or if Doka's going to find himself playing things like the Akali, a champion that he does share in Jenkins' pool, or something supportive like a Lulu, something that Team Liquid has played to great success in the top lane throughout their run.
And I think that that's a great narrative to look at. You got to look at Dokla in the top, but you have to look at what's been working through them throughout the entire tournament, and that's Ayla in the bot lane. I feel like we can't overstate how much impact this player has had, playing his Braum, playing his supportive style, and really emphasizing or really allowing Team Liquid to play through Jenkins and allowing that top side of the map to get as strong as it is. I feel like this is the read that Team Liquid Academy has on the meta, and they've been playing the quote-unquote expected way as best as it can possibly be played.
But Cubby, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we both kind of agreed. I mean, we saw this Core 5 actually play together for 10 games throughout the regular season in the summer, but very different patch, very different meta at the time. So we're going to kind of learn together what this team looks like and how they will choose to play. When we were talking ahead of the show, thought was maybe they play through Yan in the bottom lane now. Maybe they move away from this top heavy focus, but obviously we can't tell. It's going to be a new look for Team Liquid Academy going into the Best of 5 against a tough opponent. I want to take some time to talk now about 100 Thieves Academy. So, Cage, I'm going to give this one back to you. We talked about Team Liquid's style, what we kind of learned from them, even with 2 new players. Talk to me about the 100 Thieves Academy style. What should we expect from them in a Best of 5?
I think it can be summed up in one word: chaos from the beginning, Steve. And that's going to be really what defines Team Liquid Academy's style, is just getting in aggressive early on, using Chad specifically to go into the enemy jungle, always going for those counter matchups as quickly as possible, and then roaming around the map, as Cubby was saying earlier, just looking for anything that he can find, whether it's diving top 3 times in a row or going mid, then bot, then mid again. He'll continue to make those early plays and try to get an aggressive start to the game in order to allow 100 Thieves Academy a early victory and hopefully push that to a win.
I also just want to squeeze in about 100 Thieves Academy. They love to go for what the community would call cheese in the early game. I just call it taking advantage of every tool that you have. Look out for their level 1 strats. They love to late invade. They're one of the few teams in this tournament that are actually splitting the map to mark the enemy jungler. So I think keeping our eyes on what Chad and what Poom are doing early, and if they are going for any of those level 1s, is something that we'll have to do starting to get into these games.
All right, I'm excited because the early action of 100 Thieves Academy is what kind of defined them as a team throughout Proving Grounds. So seeing how Team Liquid responds to that. Also, Cage, we noticed something kind of funny. I just want to give context for 100 Thieves. They've been 3rd place in like every event that they've participated in for the past year. 3rd in 2020 Summer Regular, 3rd in 2021 Spring, in Spring Playoffs, in Summer and Summer Playoffs. Now with Golden Glue, his first year coaching the team, have a chance to actually make it to a finals and break that 3rd place curse. So that brings us to predictions. Do we think 100 Thieves Academy can do it, or will Team Liquid still have more firepower? Cubby, I'm going to give this one to you first. Who are you predicting takes a match? And if you're feeling spicy, what's the final score count?
I'm going to have to go with 3-2. I think this game in the favor of 100 Thieves Academy. I think the series is going to go to 5. I know that Team Liquid has some roster changes. I still feel like they're a very powerful team, but I actually like what I'm seeing out of 100 Thieves Academy. I think that the fact they're going for dives, they're splitting the map, they like to play volatile early games is something that is going to benefit the team that's played together for longer. So I'm going to favor them in this one, but I think it's going to be close. I have faith that Jan, Ayla, and especially Harry, who's been really slept on for that team, can step up and take a couple games in their favor as well.
And I think in the head-to-head, it's really just down to like who has the more consistency, and you can't really call consistency on a team that has 2 new members coming in on the day. So I'm also going to go with a victory to 100 Thieves Academy. I think it's going to be a 3-1 though, just because I feel like they are a really strong team. They've been working together, and they look good in this tournament.
All right, so whichever way you slice it, we're thinking it's 100 Thieves a victory, whether it's a 3-2, 3-1. Let us know, of course, what you think in Twitch chat down below. And if you're even feeling bold, hop onto Twitter. Tweet out your predictions on there, otherwise it doesn't fully count. But with that said, we're going to send it over to a short break because I'm hearing that the teams are ready to go. And after this, Latigrus and Joshi will pick it up for game number 1.
Welcome back, everybody, to LCS Proving Grounds. My name is Latigrus, and I am here with Joshi, ready to bring you into the winners finals between Team Liquid Academy and 100 Thieves Academy. It should be a pretty banging one, Joshi. Lots of roster shakeups on 2 very competitive teams.
And we already know how well these guys have played. They're currently in winners finals, but there's also a repeat of what we saw in Academy playoffs finals. So both these teams have been really showing up. 100 Thieves and Team Liquid went to a full 5 games last time we actually saw them play against each other.
Yeah, and it was a scrappy one as expected. I know the desk was talking a lot about the way 100 Thieves love to play this meta, really trying to have an impact on the early game. But Team Liquid showing a lot of versatility in their patience, the way they can execute within these games. And we'll have to see how it all goes down in the draft to see, hey, are these teams going to be shaking things up specifically on the Team Liquid side because they have the subs in? Because we know that top side to play a little bit differently for them compared to the other previous roster.
Yeah, both you said it, the desk said it. There's a lot of questions about how this Team Liquid roster is going to be playing. We haven't been seeing a whole lot of Inori throughout this split. We saw him play, I believe it was 12 games earlier where he went 6-6, and we haven't seen much from Dokla. The one game that they subbed him in the best of 5 versus 100 Thieves, they unfortunately dropped that game. So we're not really sure what's going on. Chad seems pretty confident that they'll be able to carry it through, but I feel like we're going to learn a lot about how Team Liquid are going to play after this first game.
Yeah, that's the thing about a series, right? Especially when it comes to a best of 5. What adjustments are going to be made? Do you want to go with something comfortable in the first game so you can have that good grounding below you? Or do you want to bring out some of those picks that maybe you haven't executed in previous series so that you can throw your opponents off their balance a little bit? And right at the start, we're seeing the Ziggs ban, Graves, specifically Chad in their previous series, having quite the pop-off game against Wildcard Red. But a lot of the targeting from TLA, even back to their previous series in the the Academy semifinals is over towards Luger in that bot lane, not wanting him to be able to have those pop-off moments. And on the other side, still the Varus, you've got the Thresh and Jace, a prime pick for Dokla. And guess what? Already going to be bringing out the Ophelio, something that the desk and everyone were wondering, is Yon going to go in that direction because of the changes to this roster?
And I really like the putting Yon in this big carry, right? Because not only does it allow us to hide what Dokla and Inori are going to be doing for a little while longer and ask more questions of how 100 Thieves are actually looking to play the game, but this character is just really good, Kathy. We've been seeing it for a long time, and it is going to be matched up by the Zarya Rakan, another very classic dual lane that has a lot of early game pressure and provides a lot of safety later in the game. So they're already ticking a lot of the boxes I look for when I see a composition come together, and I like what Golden Glue is doing.
Yeah, and Rakan being one of the most prominent supports throughout the entirety of Proving Grounds thus far, partly because of the bans that have been going through as well, not just against supports like Poom and Ayla, but across the board because of how important that initiation, that CC, whatever it have you be, is to the team. But on the opposite side, another trusted support, Leona gets locked in here. TLA want to make sure their bot lane feels nice and secure.
It's your girl. We got a very aggressive lane already coming through for Team Liquid, right? Going to be fighting fire with fire and blue. Third pick on the blue side, going to be this Camille coming out for Dokla, something that is very prominent right now. Just about everybody needs to play, and Dokla has had a lot of success on this in the past as a crazy split pusher, but it also provides a ton of lockdown. And as Rise coming through, we know that a lot of people are starting to look at the Cassiopeia as a counter pick, and therefore, because there's a third pick on the red side, I'm expecting 100 Thieves to ban it.
Yeah, Cassiopeia, you make that mention of, and Harry specifically having a lot of great games on that pick. Granted, part of the success in the previous series was when paired with the Lulu from Jenkins in the top side and having somebody that can offer that additional utility. But overall, as a pick, doing so well in the matchup, having great team fight potential. But going through these bans a bit more, Cass taken off, and then Shen, Gamsu really playing towards that weak side and offering a lot of supportive tanks that really can basically do just that for their entire composition.
We've definitely been seeing a lot of 100 Thieves play through Chad really heavily. I believe that the term that we were using before the game started was cheesy, really cheesy kind of players that will go for all kinds of early game plays, and it's honestly really impressive to see a team that is just coming together so early just be willing to go for these crazy early game plays. We know Luger likes to be aggressive at level 1, we know Poom can be aggressive, Ryoma does it, Chad does it. The only question is going to be, how are they going to continue playing it now that they're losing a couple of these, kind of more supportive top side map? Shen taken off the table, Lee Sin also loses some of the early damage and just mobility that this champion offers.
Yeah, that mobility being very crucial in some of their past compositions. And as we continue through this draft here, you already know that the Camille is on the top side, as we've noted before, often willing to go in blind with that. A lot of the teams, not just TLA, and the response on the other side, Renekton. So Gamsu, despite going for a lot of picks like the Shen, like the Gnar, like the Ornn, also has the Jace, the Renekton, some of those picks that can offer their own power.
Okay, and it looks like Team Liquid are finally forced to show what kind of jungles Inori is going to be playing. We saw a lot of AP junglers like the Diana from him previously, but the Rek'Sai hovered and the Jarvan going to be the answer. We have a lot of dive coming through, but also a lot of early game potential right off the bat coming in from Team Liquid Academy. And I like the adaptation from 100 Thieves, right? They haven't had a great chance to scout Inori. We haven't had a great chance to scout Inori, and Dokla, a little bit more of a known factor recently just because he's been playing so long at the competitive level that you don't necessarily need to counterpick him as much, but they're giving Chad Jungle the counterpick right now, and with the Syndra going into the mid lane, we get to see what it is that 100 Thieves wants to play into Jarvan.
And that Syndra works very well into Harry's style of being this consistent force, really comfortable on the control mages. On the side of 100 Thieves, though, it's Nocturne that is getting locked in here last. If you're looking for someone that can affect the map alongside the Rise, then that is definitely a pick to do it.
Yeah, and I like both these compositions that both teams are coming out. Like you said, there's a lot of long-range damage, there's some good wave clear. You tick all the boxes, right? You have engage, you have split push opportunities, you have ways to force people into choke points, you have things that can punish people when they go into fog of war, you have early game, and then you also have some late game. So honestly, I feel like both these teams coming out with very standard picks, and I'm excited to see how they're going to be going up head-to-head because nobody has a clear advantage in my mind just off of this draft alone.
Yeah, even though you just talked about how much you like both of these sides and how strong they are and what they can do, is there one side that you're inching towards just a little bit
Ooh.
more?
Just a little bit. I'm liking
little
Team
bit.
Liquid. They have a lot of dive onto the rise, and Ryoma's really going to have to prove why this is a pick they go for so often.
All right, first compositions are locked for both TLA and 100 Thieves A. Let's kick it to a break, and on the other side, we're getting into game number 1. Welcome back, everybody, to LCS Proving Grounds. Can you believe it? We've made it to the winners finals. Team Liquid facing off against 100 Thieves here today. If you have been along for the ride, though, you know there are some different faces than we have seen in some of the series past, particularly on this top side. Dokla and Inori stepping in. 100 Thieves on the other side have been working with Gamsu and Chad for the entirety of this tournament so far, though, Joshi. And this should be a good one, looking at how the draft came through.
Yeah, we also get to immediately see why 100 Thieves are kind of known as a bit of cheesers, right? Poom immediately going top lane, seeing if he can find something aggressive onto Dokla, noticing that there's no flash, and, you know, at least trying to get him to start hookshot level 1. Force him into a little bit more of an uncomfortable position where he doesn't have as much control of the wave. But as we look at these two teams, we already touched on it, they're very storied in the academy. They've had a lot of success. I think you were talking about it earlier. Spawn bringing a team that was 10th in 2020, now already first in playoffs and looking to take control of Proving Grounds. And 100 Thieves, while they haven't necessarily been in the same kind of depths, Golden Glue is able to take them, and look how far they've come. Winners, finals, best of 5, all 5 games in the actual playoffs. Both these teams looking very good.
Yeah, it's Golden Glue in his first year as a coach, having to make these adjustments when you have those roster changes come through, facing off against Spawn, who's been putting that work in through the entire year. It feels like, Joshi, both these teams kind of have a weight on their shoulders for different reasons. Team Liquid, yes, they won Academy. This has all been in the effort to erase what happened in the previous Proving Grounds, whereas 100 Thieves being right on the outskirts of championship caliber. Oh, we're getting some early action, though, here. Ayla went in with the E onto Luger, but the response was some chunk down onto Jan, who has some healing in his back pocket to pull through. But this bot lane looking scrappy in their efforts to get those championship titles.
I'm already excited for this, right? I like the way that Ayla and Jan are playing up against Poom and Luger. We know that both of them have been having good seasons. Luger, I think the stat was gold difference at 10, like 530, which is absolutely crazy. That's more than a full kill on average. But this is also a situation where losing all this HP early on is kind of going to get pushed out by Jan.
Will lead to moments like this where Ayla going in with the E but has to flash out because the turret damage is just a bit too much when you're here at level 2. But that's that continued aggression that Team Liquid is going to try to execute to suppress 100 Thieves as much as possible. We know Luger to be pretty flashy, and Shad also flashy in his own right, just paying some mind over here to this top side. Maybe they can make something happen around Dokla, but that wave is coming up from blue side as well, so maybe a meeting of junglers soon enough.
But this is also something we know Chad likes to do. He's skipping over a lot of camps. He still has 3 camps available as Dokla is pushed in. Inori is here. This is a very risky dive that they're already looking to go for. And if this doesn't work out, Chad is giving up a lot of time and a lot of gold.
Waves officially pushed on through by Gamsu. There's the hook shot to get to the wall. Dokla with a bit of the lockdown takes a lot of damage himself, but the teleport's coming in from Harry for a bit of a response. And now the enemy jungler responds. Nori is here. They're going to get this chase down onto Gamsu. Not a lot of places for him to escape when there's a support blocking off his other exit. 2 kills right on the board for TLA.
Wow, this early game play coming in from 100 Thieves, very risky, and it doesn't work out. This is going to be setting them really, really far behind, because we know typically Nocturne comes alive at level 6. People weren't necessarily expecting this dive, but Team Liquid were not phased. They knew this was a big possibility coming through. They knew Chad likes to go for all these kind of plays, and turning it on its head, they had Ayla, they had Nori there, and Ayla now chilling in the mid lane, going to be clearing out some wards, and they're looking for 4 points of their own.
Yeah, Nori right from the back ends up getting the flash out of Ryoma alongside the knock-up. It's the 3v1 right now, but Ryoma has the safety of his turret, so it'll be a back for him. Doesn't have teleport because he already used it, so it will take him some time to get back to lane, but that's exactly what you're seeing from Team Liquid, trying to shut them down and suppress early.
This is honestly really impressive stuff. Now, while Inori's flash follow after the flash from Ryoma looked really cool, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but Jan, he doesn't necessarily know that Puma and Luger are here, and this is why he's shooting to the top side.
Prim goes for the response, doesn't get the knock up though, gets back with the battle stance. Luger getting so chunked down though. Prim here with the shielding. Ayla still in pursuit. A nice stun from him, and that's a nice kill for the bot lane.
Look, I was expecting this to be a good series, but I wasn't expecting Team Liquid to blow up the early game this quickly. It feels like they are just playing with confidence, whereas 100 Thieves aren't necessarily at the spot where they are making all the right decisions just quite yet. 100 Thieves have to be very careful, because look at this. Doka with 2 assists, already pushing them around. This is a classic counterpick. Yeah, you're not supposed to be winning this hard as Camille this early, but because Gamsu is taking so much damage and Nori's on the top side of the map, it's going to be very dangerous as a Crocodile coming up very soon, and it's easy to trade this for the Dragons.
And Dokla feeling mighty comfortable making that face at Gamsu, and that's the thing about the way that 100 Thieves have liked to play things. They want to go for those early plays and aggression, but when it doesn't work out, when Chad spending those time in the other lanes instead of his own jungle doesn't work in their favor, Team Liquid instead bring the advantages for themselves. About a 1.6k gold lead now at the early stage here at the 6-minute mark.
And I also like the fact that 100 Thieves are transitioning this early aggression into trying to find something on the map. When they're coming in at a deficit, you gotta find counterplay. You gotta find yourself something to play towards. Typically with Nocturne, he's just scaling to his level 6, but he has no camps to do. And with burning the bot lane because Jan and Ayla already backed away, it's an easy opportunity for them to get Dragon. They don't have to trade it for Rip Herald necessarily, as Ryoma is going to be getting out of this gank. And now 100 Thieves will still have an opportunity in about a minute 40 to actually try and contest the Rift Herald. So 100 Thieves, very proactive in the early game. Couple things went wrong, but I like the fact that they're continuing to look for plays.
Oh, and they're looking for it here. The knockup from the Nori goes in. Ryoma already chunked down. Harry throwing it out as well. Gets the kill onto the enemy mid laner, but it's a jungler in the trade as the support falls for Team Liquid A right now. One last swipe. Who's going to get the kill? And in this case, it's Chad. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Gamsu flashing forward to get the final slice onto Dokla. A little bit of return action.
Okay, 100 Thieves coming right back out. We saw Team Liquid, they had the option to go for the play, but they just weren't running into an outnumbered fight, and this is something we often see. Jan staying bot lane in order to get plates off this turret, but he's all alone, level 6, and neither Blue nor Blue have ultimates.
He knew it was coming. He started to back off, and boom, got him collapsed upon. Already marked down low, but the 2v1 is just too strong for him to handle. Jan even trying to ult there in the final moments, but can't get a kill for himself.
Look at how the gold is still currently in favor of Team Liquid, because they were able to get all these kills early. They got the first blood bonus, they got a couple of plates down bottom lanes, they're still ahead. But as we look at this fight once again, this is a 3v4. Even with this big stun coming through from Harry, he doesn't have a whole lot of mana. Ayla has the exhaust, he doesn't necessarily have the burst and ignite will actually provide. And ultimately, even though we don't have ultimates coming out from 100 Thieves, they still just have extra members, and that's going to be worth plenty in order to actually find a couple of kills. We are back to a pretty even game after all is said and done, but it is still about 700 in favor of Team Liquid, and as the Rift World comes up, this is going to be where all of our attention starts turning towards.
You do have to appreciate that 100 Thieves keep pushing that pedal to the metal, even though they had some disadvantages early on, because the second you start backing off of this and not giving any of your lanes opportunity to get into that powerful position and start building for themselves, then the game itself is kind of out of your mental, right? right? So really matching up here against Team Liquid and starting to set it up on this Rift Herald for 100 Thieves. All on Team Liquid's side, though, they have been willing to give up some of these neutral objectives early if it means they can apply some pressure elsewhere, because Inori is hovering over onto that bot side, in which Ayla is also rotating down towards for the potential 3v1 dive once this wave pushes up.
And notice that there's no teleports up for 100 Thieves, so it'd be hard for them to react to, but it looks like they're taking too long to actually make the play happen. And because of that, there's going to be a Rift Herald going over to 100 Thieves with almost nothing giving back in return. But we're also seeing this theme starting to run through. We're noticing that Inori cleaned out all of his camps on the bottom half before he looked for the play, and even took away his opponent's Blamp, whereas Chad giving up a lot of time farming.
Over on the top side, though, nothing being given up in terms of trying to just make those damage trades. They expect to be alone here in the 2v2 over on the bot. The Feather Storm comes out from Luger, exhausted by Ayla. Ends up getting rooted by the ultimate and the Drag of the Blade Caller, but still just damage at this point in time. Luger also had the blue buff on him to make himself just a little bit scarier.
Very surprising that they were willing to go for that. I mean, I guess I respect the idea, right? You have ultimate before Ayla actually has it, and Chad walking through the mid lane. You know, you're trying to use the fact that you have ultimates before your opponents do really aggressively. Unfortunately, Jan is good feet. He just walks and clicks the right spot, but now Chad looking top lane. Inori is reading this as well.
Nori is here, and so is Chad, and Gamsu making the rotation towards the back. The teleport coming in for the additional collapse, but this is going to be a 3v3, as Harry has also come to the fight. The Hextech ultimatum, the Paranoia drops down as well. Many ultimates used, including the Cataclysm, and here in the end, it's both top laners that fall.
Both top laners are dead, and the Rift Herald continues to sit in Chad Jungle's pocket as they rotate down towards the mid lane. I love this! I love this play so much! They know that there's no way for Syndra to really react to this. They have to teleport if they want to react at all, and it should be 3 plates going through. Ayla is here, but already Luger and Poom rotating up. We might have a big fight, because it looks like at least 7 people are going to be here in the mid lane.
Ayla on the outskirts of the jungle does have flash available if he wants to go for anything fancy, but 100 Thieves are here in full force, waiting for the mid laner, waiting for the jungler of TL to come and make the rotation. Luckily for them, this turret doesn't fall too early for there to be enough damage. I really did like that too, Joshi, with Ryoma and friends. They don't need the cardio. If they can just skip a little bit of that distance, save them the sweat.
Save them the sweat indeed. And now as they start moving down towards the bottom half of the map, notice that 100 Thieves are playing around these objective timers so well. They got the first dragon uncontested, they got the Rift Herald uncontested, and now they're moving towards the dragon. They're getting all of their backs, and it looks like Chad will probably have a mythic completed. Indeed, he has the full Gore Drinker ready to go, whereas everybody on Team Liquid still working on their first item. And as we start paying attention to the bottom side, Jan is trying to find a play early.
Ooh, Moonlight Vigil answered by the ultimate from Luger, even threw down Solar Flare, but it was not able to land because of that ultimate activation from Xayah here. So Team Liquid, instead of going and persisting even more, they turn their attention onto the Drake so they can stop this stacking early.
Alright, well, I think the big deciding factor here, you gotta pay attention to what resources you have available, and Chad calling out right now, yeah, we could fight for this dragon, it might go well, but I don't have my ultimate. That is most of what my champion does. We don't want to take this unnecessarily risky fight. As long as we can continue scaling, we still have the Rise on our side. Xayah maybe doesn't scale as individually well as Aphilos, but she's no slouch later on in the game, and as long as we can continue to push the tempo on the next dragon, we should be very happy to go for this. So, again, very different play coming in from 100 Thieves. They know that they don't want to make any unnecessary risks, and it feels like we're starting to shift from that early game of the cheesy Luger and Ryoma and Chad to a much more calculated style that we know that they've been working on.
Yeah, they've allowed that cheese to expire here and moved on to some other nutritious options, like just stabilizing and keeping their strength with the gold lead being even. But, I mean, that is one thing that you have to know as a positive for 100 Thieves is sometimes, you know, in the earlier stages of this roster, granted a little different when they're trying to feel each other out, when do you take that moment instead of trying to go for the cheese plays and instead hang back a little bit? That's something that Team Liquid have been able to do very effectively. So matching pretty well here 13 minutes into the game. And also worth noting that that's going to be an Infernal Drake as the next one. Oh, flash out of Ryoma. Seeing Inori come in with the E, good response. But yeah, we'll have a longer fight for that soul later on, but it'll definitely add some damaging power to future fights.
I also want to take some time to highlight, as we look at the Infernal Soul still 3 minutes away, the fact that Gamsu is, really playing quite well in this Renekton. He's gotten himself a gold lead after a kind of disastrous early game, right? He finds a solo kill up against Dokla, and while this is a good matchup, to his credit, it's also something that we have to pay attention to. We've been seeing a lot of tank come out from Gamsu. We saw his Jace play and we're kind of unconvinced by it, but the fact that he's willing to continue coming through and play a variety of different styles is something we praised him for a long time ago, and I think as we see this play come through, it's going to be really valuable for 100 Thieves to mix up different styles and makes them a lot more valuable for potential other teams.
It does make you wonder what the strategy from the team is overall once they brought Gamsu into the fold, because he's been around for some time, having experience going back even to, Indignitas in the old days and through his time on Next. And clearly when he had to come up to this Academy side, wanting to go with some picks that were a bit easier to work around for the rest of the team, but it doesn't mean that he cannot bust out the Renekton, that he can't have something that they're able to play around. And we might see that action right here in game 1 against TL, when you know that Dokla likes to go for a lot of that same type of pressure.
We're seeing the Divine Thunder. We're starting to see a little bit more committal from a lot of these players. And, as we look at it, we'll have to pay attention to how well Gamsu is able to play later in the game, because this matchup starts off pretty decent for Renekton, but it gets worse as Camille's true damage scales up with her champion level, not the item level, and boom, good stuff.
Oh, Poom has to battle dance out of this one. Jan and Ayla still nice and healthy. So Luger and Poom still continuing to try and apply as much pressure here in the bot lane as possible, even enough in farm, and we'll push this under the turret, which forces Jan and Ayla to back off, but Chad coming through with Ryoma on the Realm Warp, and there's the Paranoia dropping down. Solar Flare from Poom, but that's the near side that's gonna add a little bit of chaos to TLA. Exhaust onto Ryoma, going ahead and trying to juggle this turret aggro. Luger has to ult just to make sure that he doesn't take too many shots. Now Harry and Inori are here, they can be in pursuit. They know that Luger, Poom, and Chad are marked down low enough, but really they're just trying to usher this wave and get them to back the F up. A nice route onto Inori, just because he said, I know that you're trying to come to me and prevent me from backing and getting out safely here.
Ooh, Chad might be in a little bit of trouble. Does still have the flash available, but I really like the play that we just saw coming through. One of the great things about Rakan that they were able to execute on is they get Jan's flash almost immediately, and then after that, Rise and Nocturne weren't committed to a dive before the flash comes through. Once they see the flash already down, then they start looking for the actual play. They start bringing people down, and crucially, they're also, again, timing all of their plays excellently around all of these upcoming objectives. The Dragon comes up in about 40 seconds from now, but it's basically impossible for Felix to try and outplay this. He doesn't have any mobility left in his kit, and what's a lone Leona gonna do underneath this turret when 100 Thieves are able to juggle the aggro so well, waiting till the last possible second in order to actually use the ultimate from Xayah. Great play overall, and we're starting to see the cohesiveness that this team has already started to build really pay off against the Team Liquid, which has just put their roster together in this fashion pretty much right now.
Wonderful use of the mobility of ultimates like Realm Warp and bringing Chad there where you're really able to fully capitalize upon just putting everyone into darkness, and even Team Liquid right there maybe a little caught off guard by that immediate but a little bit delayed enough response from 100 Thieves. So even though things kicked off pretty hard for TL right at the start of this game, 100 Thieves, Joshi, have been making sure to scrap it through. Here in mid, they've already got that tower down and are starting to usher some of these waves forth. Dokla eventually finding his time to leave that lane means that Gamsu can also pressure on that top side.
I was about to praise 100 Thieves for doing everything correct. Every single step necessary. You get the priority in the mid lane. You get a priority basically everywhere else. With the bot lane turret down, the one thing they didn't actually do was go for the dragon. They had the teleport from Gamsu. They had Chad's ultimate, but they are choosing not to. They don't want to take fights up against Syndra when she's at her main power spike with the Loons complete. Instead, getting a little bit of damage in the mid lane, going to be taking away a blue buff and potentially posturing around this Rift Herald now that Gamsu is finished taking down the top lane turret. But we are seeing this transition, right? 100 Thieves no longer necessarily going for all of these more risky plays. And we said Chad was going to be giving up a lot of farm. He's done that a lot less this game, as you see. He's only about a camp and a half behind Inori right now, so it feels like 100 Thieves are just really good at making plans throughout this first game of the series.
Yep, excellent level of adaptation to some of the earlier moments of this game. Chad knows that he needs to be a heavy force for the rest of the team, so don't bother hovering around lanes if you don't know that you're going to be able to execute effectively with the rest of the squad. And now, even though that dragon was taken for TL side, we'll have to see what's to come, because 100 Thieves are still holding on to a little bit of a gold lead, and I think wanting to go and target that Rift Herald as a potential prize on the opposite side of the map because of that turret being down, even though that wave was able to push up a bit more because of Dokka's return.
I like the attention that we're starting to pay towards like how the turrets actually affect the map, right? I know Ender in particular in Europe really enjoys talking about how the different kinds of rifts and the Infernal Rift come through, how it actually affects a lot of these gameplay. But the biggest thing that I want to pay attention to is, as long as these turrets are up, they provide a ton of artificial tempo, a ton of artificial pressure, because your opponents can't really push past these turrets. And as we're seeing this right now, 100 Thieves are using this to great effect because there's no turrets that are up that can look through these plays.
Out of the darkness, out of the bush, and directly onto a Camille. Dokka finds too many red faces in that jungle and is punished for it. So with that, Chad and Gamsu rotating towards the top side, getting punished though for that splitting off. Inori attempts to go for it, throws down the Cataclysm, but only gets one. So instead, TL decide to back off.
Team Liquid are starting to feel a little bit desperate at this point, right? They have to look for some kind of counterplay. It's not enough to just give all of this over to your opponents, and Harry doesn't realize that Rakan's over the wall.
Oh no, Boom is here again, always out of the woodwork, throws down the Solar Flare. Ayla trying to help the rest of the team. He just a little bit short, but there's still a route onto Luger on the opposite side. Teleport coming in from 100 Thieves side as well. Gamsu still in pursuit. Inori locked down between two, but uses the E to escape, but there's a Ryoma right in his face as soon as he does so. Rome wants to get the entire team to safety, and directly on Baron at 2014 on this timer. Yun, Ayla, and Dokka are going there as fast as they can, and even though they have a single teleport available to Dokka, he can't really do much without the rest of his team. So here it is, 100 Thieves securing an early Baron for themselves.
Absolutely gorgeous play coming in from 100 Thieves. The way that they're able to pick up on Harry, the way that they're able to manufacture a fight where 100 Thieves are always on the aggressive side. Look at the fact that Plume comes over here and he gets Harry in complete isolation. Watch how Nori ends up trying to go in for Luger, and every single part of this fight is losing. And at the same time, almost serendipitously, they're actually also throwing down the Rift Hold in the top side. So there is no part of this fight that Team Liquid is winning. They're all running on every single part of the map. Then finally, when everything is said and done, they still have the Rift Hold going. They get a free turret, and because they get all these kills because of how split Team Liquid were, they're able to use the Realm Warp again in order to pick up a Baron. This is the second time 100 Thieves had made great use of the Rise, and I honestly can't wait to see how they continue doing this, because it doesn't look like the Cinder has been the answer that Team Liquid are looking for the rest of the series.
Oh. Maybe something around here. Everybody's kind of posturing, but there's too much vision. Yeah, just elaborating upon that a bit. I know Halloween's a bit off, but it feels like, never mind. Inori slams down with the Cataclysm, but here Boom and Luger are directly into the fight. The enemy jungler has been taken down. Gamsu onto the opposite side, hovering onto Dokka, has to hook shot away and into the Dragon Pit. Ryoma falling under a lot of fire from Harry and Ayla, but gonna get the disengage right now. Gamsu with the ultimate activated, just has to get directly into the face of the remaining Team Liquid members. Dokka circling around the rest of his team, but without a jungler, CL can't do much more against the Baron empowered 100 Thieves.
I really like this play from 100 Thieves. Now, the one weakness that this composition might have is once they use the ultimates from Plume and Chad, they don't have a ton of engage tools, but it doesn't matter if you have engage tools or not when your opponent is forced to face check flying into the fog of war. And 100 Thieves are going to be executing upon that well. Going to be picking up their second dragon. As you said very early on, Gabby, it's going to be a very late soul if we see one come through at all. But 100 Thieves, I really just want to give props to whoever's making the calls for this team. I'm expecting it's probably been Ryoma quite a bit because he's using these Realm Warps, and now he feels so strong, he's going for Dokla.
Oh, a sandwich he has created with that Realm Warp. There's the root onto Dokla, once again getting caught out. Even this time, it's not like there was anyone directly in the bush where he was at, but with those ultimates available to 100 Thieves to just make themselves appear out of thin air like Ryoma has done multiple times, it makes it difficult when you get caught out in that regard. So 100 Thieves doing so good at following their momentum. Another sandwich, a little bigger double decker right now. Gamsu falling under the solar flare once more, but on the opposite outskirts, Ryoma, Poom, and Luger were just separated and had to wait for their time to exit, but Inori falling to a deafening fate.
And look at the damage that we're seeing come out of Jan right now. He's got 2 items completed. Yeah, he's got the Immortal Shield Bone, he's got the Collector, but he's not able to chew through Gamsu whatsoever. He's not able to chew through Chad. They're both sitting on nearly identical items, right? The Gold Drinker plus Hysterics. These guys have a lot of HP to play with, and even more if they can get on top of you, where they're actually able to use the Gold Drinker. So 100 Thieves, again, they're just playing this map exceedingly well. They're moving around, they're catching members of Team Liquid out, and because they have so much map control, because these turrets have gone down, they should be able to continue doing that as they transition now towards the bottom side of the map. The one thing that they have to pay attention to, though, is they no longer have the Baron buff, but they should be very happy taking this game a little bit later on. And look at this, they're looking for Yang once again.
Oh, Paranoia sets in once again, and just like that, there's no more ADC for TL. Inori in the middle of the action has to eat out of it directly under this turret. So 100 Thieves just making sure they find these opportunities of vulnerability and using their full potential to punish them.
I'm not normally a fan of Nocturne, Gabby. I'm going to be straight up. I think this champion was overpicked way too much earlier in the year, but now we're seeing Chad make a ton of value with it because he's just catching people left, right, and center every single time they see somebody that's caught out. Chad is on the case. He goes for the play. Poom and Luger, we also saw coming in there, and now because they have so much pressure on the map, they can rotate between these lanes without any contest coming in from Team Liquid. And as another turret goes down, 2 kills worth of gold going into Gamsu's pocket, this gold lead continues to grow, and Inori, gotta believe them.
Does have some semblance of escape, but most of his team has arrived. Yon, Nori, Ayla, and Harry doing their best to hold on to this turret. But it's 100 Thieves that are just continuing to apply this physical pressure, moving as a unit between games. TL unable to get any turrets since the beginning. There we go. Moving on to Ghost, and the Paranoia sets in once more. Blast Cone to get the Leona into safety. But under that hidden shroud, 100 Thieves decide to just back off of this. The majority of them going back to base right now, while the 2 remainder carries, Luger and Ryoma, are just rotating, hopefully getting some wards into this jungle.
So as we look at this game, you know, it's a very large lead already coming out from 100 Thieves. We kind of have to take stock of how our expectations for Team Liquid were met, right? We knew that Dokla and Inori coming in, they were 5-5 as a duo on this Team Liquid squad during the regular Academy season. They had some decent opportunity to show that, you know, they can play together as a unit, but it doesn't look like they have the same idea, because look at this, Poom's still going.
Ooh, even a flash in pursuit to see the Blade Caller come through for the double root. Jan, only a little sliver left for him. Poom getting knocked for just a moment, but Team Liquid, they're the ones on the back foot right now. 100 Thieves as a unit, just so difficult to tear down.
Look at this, it's the same play. They just made this play, and it works again because Young doesn't have his flash available, and now they're going for the Baron almost immediately as it spawns. So 100 Thieves, it feels like they are so good at identifying that they can take fights before these objectives actually spawn. They've done it every single time, and 100 Thieves, now as they start to back away, they're using another Realm Warp.
Oh my god, because they didn't even need to get to the Baron this time. They have it for the opposite end of that objective take, so they can continue applying the pressure. In this case, they couldn't find any more way to advance, so they just want to push the wave and get their back right now. But as you're saying, Yoshi, same exact play and idea that 100 Thieves have been executing.
It feels, you know, kind of like a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. This is the exact same spot they got caught in last time, and this time there wasn't even the Nocturne ult needed for the fight. And because it happens all at once, because they get these summoners out, because Dokla's not really able to respond, it's very easy for them to go topside. And again, they also get the Baron in time for the Infernal Dragon, right? They're playing this map so incredibly well, and this is something that we knew 100 Thieves was good at, but normally they were doing it in a very scrappy way. When Nasty and Kenby were here, it was all about finding advantages through these fights, but this time they're doing it with just control of the vision, control of the map, and they're going to be getting this Infernal Dragon without anything from Team Liquid really going back. They get the top lane turret, but whoop-de-doo, it's 27 minutes.
Even when you see the skirmish going on, Poom blast-coning over the wall to get out of the Cataclysm, even if Poom went down there, 100 Thieves were willing to make that sacrifice because they knew that Dragon was getting secured, and there's no effective vision from TL into that portion of the jungle. So now 100 Thieves focused on the turret, focused on this inhib, and on TL's side, they still don't have a jungler. They're gonna be outnumbered right now. More turrets going down, Joshi. This is looking like 100 Thieves pushing on through for a potential game 1 victory. Do they commit here, though? Baron empowered waves have applied to the turret. Boom gets knocked down. That's a great stun from the solar flare, but the response to the paranoia once more. Gamsu goes into stasis. The root onto Chad as he goes for the backline. Ayla manages to step into the fountain for that additional healing, but the scatters the weak onto Gamsu. Ryoma flashing out of this one. Can we see TL push them off of this base? Indeed, we can. Oh no! That's the Headset's ultimatum onto Ryoma. Stasis for him as well. Inori going for the knockup, but cannot find his own life to stay in this fight. Chad flashes away, gets stunned up. Some blades being thrown out by Luger, but it is TL that find the final kill.
A great play from Ayla, keeps them in the game for now, but it is just that. It is only for it now. It is such a dominant victory coming in for 100 Thieves that it should be relatively trivial for them to try and end this game. But for now, let's praise where praise is earned, right? Ayla did have a fantastic ultimate, catching Poom, going back to 3 different members, stunning 3 people here, and allowing a ton of AoE to go down. And this becomes a very separated fight in favor of the back line of Team Liquid. We know that they've been good team fighters throughout the regular season. Jan and Harry doing a good job at actually supporting each other by keeping Gamsu, Ryoma, and Chad out of the fight. And then at the very end, right, they try and find something. They want to get all these shutdowns that the members of 100 Thieves have, and they're willing to commit for it because every single kill that they get is worth more than the kills that 100 Thieves are going to be getting. So props to Team Liquid for pressing the small advantage that they were able to have. But it's still, you know, a 10,000 gold lead in favor of 100 Thieves. They still are up to 3 dragons to 2, and they still have picked up 2 inhibitors. And now as they move towards the mid lane, it's only a question of how they're trying to win, not when.
As wonderful as those moments did look, a long-range hook shot into that tactical sweep. Dokla having some reinvigorating energy for the team along with the rest of them, but in the end, 100 Thieves are still in the driver's seat, grabbing all in with the darkness once more, bringing them under the Cataclysm, and Nori tries to go for it, but that's Ryoma following up with a kill of his own. It's still 1 to fall. Make that 2, make that 3. Will we make that another one? There it goes. The Hextech ultimatum for another attempt at life, but that life has been ended. Harry is just him, baby. He's going into the base. Boom, and the rest of 100 Thieves, they're looking to the turret. They're looking to the Nexus. They're looking to a victory here in game number 1 against your Academy victors in TL in such an epic rematch. We're going to kick it to a break, everyone, but when we return, there's more proving grounds to come.